RJ, the Kraken do it. They get back to their winning ways. They're back above 500. Just dancing right around that spot. But they are back to their winning ways, and it feels good.
It does. I mean, never a doubt, right? We didn't ever doubt in this one, right, that they were going to get back in the win column. I certainly didn't, and we could talk about that a little bit later. I'm probably going to have to go about halfway through here because I want to let everyone know because I have a Kraken Hockey League game I got to get to, and I guess we're short players, so we really need people. My captain was telling me to go, so I'll have to go about halfway through. But you will be begging to get rid of me just because this stretch of hockey is driving me nuts a little bit, and I won't get into it right now, but I feel like I'm going crazy.
No positive disco dance party vibes from RJ today.
We can start off with that. Let's go.
Okay, just give us a little look. I was a little worried coming into this game just because Lucas Dostal has been playing out of his mind. He's been playing so well. I was a little worried that the Kraken were going to get goalied a little bit in this one. He did play really well in this one. He made some big saves. Thankfully, Joey at the other end was making equal great saves and was able to keep the Kraken in it. And then RJ, when I really started to get worried was when they hit 3 posts in like the first half of the game. And I was like, oh no, this is what's going to happen. They're going to get their scoring chances and they're all just going to go post out and they're going to be in trouble. And thankfully you get Shane Wright coming back after being the scratch. I mean, that's got to be the big story, right? Shane Wright just right away, was that his second shift, I think, maybe, goes out there, picks up the goal, goes to the net front, RJ. It's like he listened to the podcast this morning. And
I know.
Yeah,
I love that shift from Shane Wright. And he was going out there and playing like a difference maker. He looked like the Shane Wright that we saw last year in the call up in that game in Anaheim, right? He scores a goal, probably, maybe even could have had a second one like he did in that game last season against Anaheim. He was excellent. He did get a second point by winning that key face-off for the Kraken's go-ahead goal. He was playing like a top 6 player. He was playing to try and take over the game, and he was going to the net. And that was really a theme tonight too, whether it was him or Andrei Burakovsky. Going to the net, good things happen. It's like all the guys did listen to the podcast today.
I was going to say, I mean, it's one of those things where we knew it would have positive effects if they could just do it consistently, and it did. And yes, I was going to say Shane breaks his curse, as Coop puts it here in the first super chat of the night, on a night where Berkey and Shane break their curses and we hit like 5 posts. Did the bad luck go away or just spread out? P.S. Joey is nails. He played unreal. You get Shane and Berkey picking up goals in this one, RJ. Hopefully it's the first of many for both of them. Berkey seems so happy. I could totally see him go out and start scoring now after just the way he looked getting that first one.
We knew as soon as the first one went in, whenever that was going to happen, we felt like the floodgates could open because he was playing well enough to get more bounces like the one. And I'm glad he scored, not on a beautiful shot right under the bar, not on anything really pretty, a deke around 3 guys and score, but by a puck just going to the right area of the ice and a puck kind of bounces off you and goes in. I think that can be the best way to bust a slump sometimes. Just getting rewarded for having those right habits. And I mean, Berkey even talked about it too. I think it was like a couple weeks ago with the pucks not going in for him. He's tried to simplify his game. He's tried to just go to the right areas, do the little things correct. And he finally gets rewarded.
Yeah. And it was great to see for him. Looked like it went off his leg, right? Like kind of the inside of his knee a little bit, but that's what comes when you crash the net. When you do play that way, when you do go to those areas. I mean, this is just everything we've been talking about. It was nice to see him do it. It was nice to see a couple of the lines do it tonight. What was interesting was this Chandler Stevenson line didn't really do it. And what's odd about that is that they have Jaden Schwartz, who historically has been the one consistent net front guy. But there was a lot of shifts tonight where that line was just kind of all over the place, but nobody was really kind of down low in the offensive zone. But doesn't matter. It's clear that that memo has been received. I have a feeling once they come back to Seattle, we might start seeing the power play get some work, RJ, just because – I mean, we talked about it on the pod earlier today a lot. It's kind of been going around, but boy, I don't know. Like we've heard Eddie Olczyk on these broadcasts be like upset and ask for change, so to speak. I don't know that I've ever heard him like kind of so like just done with an aspect of Kraken hockey the way he seems very just done with what they're currently doing on the power play.
He had enough. And I remember, I think it was toward the end of the second period, he was saying, look, Just send the best 5 guys out there. Do away with the power play units entirely. Just send whoever you feel is playing best tonight and tell them to just go out and play hockey. That tells me he is so completely done with how the power play was playing. And you know what? I don't blame him, because the power play was just awful tonight. It's one thing to not score like they have been. They haven't really been producing goals, but then to allow the shorthanded chances that they have versus LA in the last game, in this game tonight, the Ducks had a couple grade A shorthanded chances that most teams would probably find a way to finish on if they had either better players or if Joey Decord wasn't playing out of his freaking mind right now. Those are shorthanded goals against you, and they're absolute killers in this game. So the power play is definitely a problem. They're going to need to work on that as soon as they get home.
Yeah, and I think they will. Next super chat here from Gregory. I was very ready for this one. Lemon lime Gatorade time, baby. The price was right tonight. That was not interference on Cartier. Joey. Now, while I get the Gatorade ready, and a little surprise I have for everybody ready, RJ, I do want to hear your thoughts on the Ty Cartier situation with him hitting Leo Carlson. Leo Carlson goes down bad. I mean, Ty's a big, strong guy. Just unfortunate that it happens around the net and that Leo Carlson goes into the net. You and I both know how much that can hurt. The net is a very unforgiving, solid metal pole that you're running into. Your thoughts on kind of how that situation went down, and then kind of how the refs handled it, because they were a little all over the place with it.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of the officiating tonight in general. There were a few other, I felt, missed calls or things that just went overlooked. But this one, I think it was a clean hit that just happened in an unfortunate area of the ice. And first of all, I hope Leo Carlson's okay, because crashing into the net like that, you always worry about, what happens to a player in that spot. But Cartier comes in. It's right after Carlson releases the puck. It's so close. It's just a bang, bang play. It's not a late hit, as the announcers properly saw. And especially they did point out, and I noticed this actually in real time at first too, because I was looking at the ref immediately because the result looked so bad, to see if an arm went up, and it didn't. The referee had decided not to call anything, and then looked over at Carlson, saw that he was down on the ice hurt, and then decided to make the penalty call. I don't like that from an official. If you saw the play, you chose that judge that it wasn't a penalty, and now you're just making a call on the result. I don't like that they did that. I mean, they even called it a major so they could look at it. I think they can only go down to 2. They can't just pull it off the board. But I think the fact that the Ducks didn't get a power play out of it tells you all you need to know about them realizing that it wasn't actually a bad hit. They evened it up in other ways based on the scrum afterward.
Well, I was going to say they did. I mean, it also helps that Trevor Zegras doesn't keep his cool there. He gives them
he earned
the out.
that penalty too.
Yeah, he gave them the out to help them even it up there. But yeah, the bottom line is it wasn't a late hit. It was shoulder on shoulder. That's it. Like that, it's just it. And I get it. It is one of those things, and we've talked about this before. You cannot take the emotion out of officiating always. That's the ideal, but it's hard to do. And when you see a player as injured and as much pain and protecting their head the way that Leo Carlson was and all of that, it would be hard to be that close to it and not be moved in some way. But the bottom line is it is your job not to be moved and to call it as you see it. And it did seem like that official's first idea of it was that it wasn't a penalty. And then the emotions got to him and he ends up changing the call. It seemed like, right? Like, again, we don't know for sure, but that is what it seemed like happened. And that's just, it's just, you can't do that when you're in that profession. All right. I have the Gatorade ready to go. I also have this that I'm going to play real quick, RJ, because this was made for really Gregory more than any of us. Let me play this real quick. How's that?
I feel like you need to narrate it next time and read the words out as they come up, but that's a great graphic.
Yeah, I'm working on music for it, on some sound effects to have for that. But that was made by I'll try to track this here. Bear with me. My girlfriend's brother's girlfriend made that after watching the stream the other night. Yeah. And made that, and I think it came out great. So shout out to Grace for that one. Appreciate it. And then yeah, I'll work on a sound effect, or maybe I'll narrate it. I wasn't sure if it was going to mute me while it played or not, but I guess it didn't. So that is good information to have. But appreciate it as always, Gregory. And this one is definitely for you. I'll drink this while you answer this next super chat here from Light RJ. 8 straight wins versus the Ducks, 9-2-1 all time. People asked if the Ducks were bad, and I said they have a habit of collapsing. This game is a demonstration.
I'll agree with that, Light. All you had to do was kick in the door, and they just collapsed in this game. As soon as the Kraken took the lead, it felt like the Ducks had nothing left. I mean, really, as soon as they tied the game, it felt like the Ducks had nothing left in this one. They are a bad team. They are a very bad team, despite what their record says. It's been all goaltending. And as long as Lucas Dostal, like he did tonight, just looks human, they're among the 5 worst teams in the league, and they're going to fall back down in the standings.
And what's crazy about it is they're a bad team, and I'll give you that. And they are a team that, you know, they don't have the most skill in the world and all of that stuff. The coaching is so bad, RJ. And I know we've been talking about this, particularly over on our Patreon podcast, Red Glare, but like the coaching decisions that Greg Cronin made tonight in certain key situations were absolutely mind-boggling, including right at the end there, where he has this big, and I know Edzo was kind of on this, but I'll add to it, where you have your best players out there because you're down by 1, but they're out there a little bit too soon for them to just kind of play out the rest of the game. Then the Kraken ice the puck, okay? And so now you do have a decision to make as a coach, which is, do you try to rush that and take advantage of the fact that the Kraken just iced it, so they're very tired and they have to start in the defensive zone? Or do you just go ahead and call your timeout there? Let your guys rest. Yes, it's going to let the Kraken rest up, but it's more important to have your guys rested, ready to go. You can make that decision. It's still an offensive zone draw for you. Your guys are going to be in the best shape that they can be for this upcoming situation. And what does Greg Cronin do and the Ducks, RJ? They somehow pick something in the middle, which is disastrous all the way around, because they gave the Kraken an opportunity to catch their breath somewhat, but they didn't give themselves enough to truly come out there well rested. That was baffling to me how they handled that whole situation. I really don't know how you don't just pick one of the two extremes and go with it. Like, that is the decision to make. And you somehow found a gray area in between.
I haven't really seen anything like that before. I mean, you know, where it's been a little disjointed. They're not sure if they want to call it timeout or not, but it just felt like there was no direction whatsoever. And yeah, and of course, with something like that, you get the worst of both worlds. I don't know how he's still the coach.
I don't either. There's like
line changing
issues.
We saw this at the end of last season.
Yeah, we did. And there's like line changing issues and all sorts of stuff with that group. And it just, like, you're just not used to seeing it at the NHL level. And I know there's questions around the core that they have down there in Anaheim and everything like that, but it's even the veteran guys that, you know, aren't really in that boat. It was confusing to say the least. Super chat here from Chuck. Great to use my handbell app again. Shane. RJ, first game back. You and I talked about this after we recorded earlier. We both thought it was coming. Shane does get that goal. You know, he's got to feel good about it. I think the biggest thing for me, though, was just that he was net front. And when Dan first scratched him, the thing that he had said he talked with Shane about was getting back to the way he had played through the phenomenal training camp he had. And what was one of the things that we saw kind of day in, day out from Shane Wright at training camp was him going to the net front, him using his size to put himself in good scoring opportunities or to battle net front. And here was a great example where he just kind of throws Olin Zellweger off of him, is able to get in there and get the beautiful tip.
Yeah, it's taking advantage of a pretty big mismatch. Zellweger definitely not the biggest guy there on defense. Shane Wright wins that box out battle easily, and he's able to get the tip and score. This is exactly what I was hoping to see from him in his return to the lineup. And maybe there is something to scratching him for 3 games. I talked about it on the podcast. I didn't like that it felt like that was necessary, maybe, to give him this matchup against the Ducks. But I did feel like he could succeed in this matchup, and he certainly did that. If he got to play against the Ducks every game, Shane's a 150-point player.
He really is. It's kind of crazy how much he has their number. I mean, Kraken as a whole have their number, but it is great for sure. And then Light here with another super chat. Also, this is very long-term Light coming in, but man, Dylan, can you imagine a Price Montour pair in 3 years? Maybe the best skating D pair in the NHL. that is something I don't even know that I can handle thinking about that light, because that is insanely. I mean, it would be incredible. It would absolutely smoke other teams having those guys out there together. Just the speed that they'd be able to generate, the fact that they could really, step up in the offensive zone and try to join plays, knowing that they could both get back into coverage and that they'd have each other's backs. It would be incredible to watch. And yeah, Caden Price is having an incredible junior season so far this season. For everybody, Kraken prospect Caden Price, go check out what he's doing, or join me next month on the prospect chat, where we'll be ranking all the prospects, and he's probably going to come in fairly high.
Yeah, I mean, Price is a lefty, right?
Yes. No. Yes.
Yes,
I
he
believe
is.
so. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so there you go. Zoe kicked off chat with the Shane Wright. Yeah, there's just so much to this. Shane is just. It was just so good to see that from him. Chris, period 1 and 2, Wright go Burr. Period 3. Oh, we're playing the Ducks. Yeah, it was nice that they were able to come out so quick in the third period, RJ, and just be like, no, we're actually doing this.
Yeah, that sense of belief has always been there from the Kraken. As much as I can be critical about maybe not starting the game on time or being sloppy in the first 40, when the time comes to really get into the game and try, they tend to do it, whether it's that start of the third period push or even sometimes when they pull the goalie. At a certain point, they're going to turn it on. Whether it's too little too late or not, that depends on the game. But in this one, they turned it on at the start of the third. They never looked back.
Yep. And then from Jamin, I think, saw Joey thinking about going for the empty net, hoping for him to make it this season. I know you were probably, all I could think when we kind of saw that, RJ, was I was like, oh, RJ's really sweating this because I know how bad you don't want it to happen on the road.
You're right about that. I actually made a comment to my fiance and said, like, it's going to happen on the road. It's totally going to happen on the road. Tonight might be the night. He's looking at it. I'm sorry. I would love Joey to score a goalie goal. I want it to happen at home, not just for me, but so all the fans and everyone can enjoy it. That's really why I want us to all enjoy that one in person together.
Yes. Tammy, that shot by Monty, that was such a laser. I mean, even the replay that the Kraken Hockey Network showed, the camera couldn't keep up with it. It was just so insane.
It's amazing how his shot from the point is. And he has all these varied looks, right? He can launch an absolute bomb like he did there, but he can also throw that little sifter in from the point that's so tippable and flutters the right way. Montour can do absolutely everything from the point when it comes to shooting. And it gave Tolvanen just enough time to jump out of the way. The hops from Tolvanen on that, it was super impressive.
Yeah, no, it was really good. And the face-off win from Shane, too, not to get lost in everything. I mean, that was great to see, just to talk about something beyond just the goal that he scored. That was big. Real quick, what did you think of that line? Because I know we don't have you for the whole thing tonight. What did you think of the decision to have Shane between Oliver Bjorkstrand and Eeli Tolvanen?
I was a little skeptical about it before the start of the game because I was just wondering, okay, how much opportunity they're actually going to get. I didn't see what the final ice time figures were, but I mean, they were getting chances at least early in the game. It felt like a top 9 line at least, right? I just didn't want it to be a bottom 6. It felt like kind of a top 9 type of feel. I thought the chemistry was there more or less from those guys. I liked what I saw. I'm trying to buy some time so I can look up Shane's ice time. 10:42. All right. Well,
we're back there. I will say I did notice him kind of less and less as the game went on.
Yeah, I think because that's where I noticed him early on. I feel like they were giving him a regular shift and giving that line a regular shift in the first, and then it kind of dropped off as a close game continued. Yeah, Bjorkstrand with 11:43, Tolvanen with 11:11. I guess he dragged all 3 of those guys, or all 2 of those guys down with the ice from an ice time perspective anyway.
Yeah, that's not great to see, but maybe that changes at home, or if the game is not so close later on.
You don't have last change too, so if you send him out there, the Ducks can put anybody out there against him.
Yeah, Josh, what an insane, frustrating, wild, lovely way to get a road win. Could not have said it better myself, Josh. Maddie, turns out going net front works. It's why we've been screaming it at this team for years.
Didn't you send me a text saying almost exactly that?
Basically, yeah, just about. Ricky, that is why you play your top prospect and live with the good or bad. You don't break out of being mid by keep being mid. That is true. And I do think that, yeah, at some point, that's what they're gonna have to do with Shane, is just let him go and let him make his mistakes, whatever. But let him have nights like tonight where he can win a big time faceoff for you that leads to a goal, or go out there and score one to get on the board early. I mean, we haven't even talked about that aspect of the Shane goal. It was just that the Kraken scored first, RJ.
Yeah, that was huge. And I think it was Kraken Stats that tweeted that this was the earliest the Kraken had scored in a game, dating all the way back to that Montreal game on that road trip. So it's been a while that they've scored this early into a game. And I think that's really going to help you with the momentum, especially. And I think it was the broadcast before the game that said the Kraken had scored first, the least in the entire NHL.
Yeah.
So that's going to be huge for them going forward.
Definitely. Fusion Mix, the Ducks power play versus the Kraken PK is a real coughing baby versus coughing baby matchup. It was difficult to watch from like the hockey X's and O part of my brain was kind of struggling with that a little bit, RJ. I'm not going to lie. But I will say it was nice to see on the one penalty kill opportunity that the Kraken did have tonight that they were a little bit more aggressive, particularly the Yanni Gourde, Jared McCann forward pair. They were very aggressive, even got a nice shorthanded opportunity there for them. That was really nice to see.
Yeah, I like seeing that. And it's good to practice that sort of thing, maybe being a little bit more aggressive against a Ducks team that feels like can't really burn you. If there's a time to practice that where you might not have to face the consequences if it goes wrong, this is the time. This in the next 3 games.
Yes. And then on the flip side, RJ, from Olivia, super glad for the game result, but I really hope when Vince is back, we see the power play take a bit more shape because it is bad right now. We saw the power play just continue to look anemic. I know we already talked about it, but it is definitely something that they need to address once they get back up here to Seattle. Pablo, I hope you feel better. That sounds rough, man. Dan's move of scratching guys and then returning and scoring is now like 3 for 3. He knows what levers to pull from Coop. Maybe we just do that, RJ, right? If you have you're going to kind of always have one person as the odd man out. Maybe that just becomes the thing. Really rotate that, but just rotate like the full lineup through it.
Yeah, just go one guy every time. I mean, I remember years ago, I was going to try and do a little project like, some of the stats or analytics people do to see if there was actually statistical impact on the healthy scratch and to see if that actually empirically got guys going. It failed in the data gathering stage because it's so hard to judge, okay, what is a healthy scratch from a, coach's decision standpoint? It was really hard to find a group of players like that, but I still would love to see any actual data on that because it feels like it gets guys going. It
would be nice. From Christian, fits you calling the game like radio at first, but really settled in as the game progressed, and good banter with Edzo and JT. Fitz was really feeling it in that third period for sure.
He definitely opened up a little bit more. And I remember him talking to me about it last time that he called the game. Was it last season or the year before? Where he called the game for TV. And he talked about how it's difficult because you kind of have a radio voice and a way that you need to call the game on radio. And then there's a different way that you do it on TV. And it's an adjustment there that, of course, you're going to have to make. I think he settled in pretty early on and kind of made that adjustment. And I just love hearing his voice on the TV. There were a few times where I just sat back and thought, oh yeah, this is Fitz. I love this.
Yeah, no, I was happy that he did open up, and everybody kind of got to experience what we get to experience just almost every day when the Kraken are in town, right? Hanging out.
He's got that sense of humor on a daily basis. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's a fun guy to be around for sure. Brooke bought a blank home Adidas jersey on sale, intending to put Borgen on it, but I think I'm getting Montour. He's so clutch. Now that is huge because I don't know that I know anybody that's a bigger Will Borgen fan than Brooke. And so for Brooke to be putting Montour on that jersey, that's significant.
And it's saying a lot. That is definitely saying a lot.
Stratic, Dostal made a deal with the devil, and in the third, the Kraken said, "Not today, Satan." And then also asking, before you leave here, RJ, what was your favorite goal?
Favorite goal? It's got to be that first one with Shane Wright going to the net. And it was that whole shift, right? It was him keeping the puck in off the turnover from the Ducks defenseman going to the net. He and Bjorkstrand there in that area. It easily could have been either of them, on that tip type of play. So I love that one. Sorry if I'm taking the one that you would have picked.
No, I mean, look, that is a big one and everything.
I could easily go to the Berkey one if you want this one.
That's what I was going to do is I'm going Berkey because did you not see how happy that man was? When was the last time you saw a hockey player as happy as Andrei Burakovsky tonight scoring that goal? And look, that's the way you break out of a goal scoring slump, right? You just kind of get lucky. Something bounces off of you and it goes in. Like that's That's exactly what you need to do. Props to him for continuing to play the right way, playing the right way on that play, and finally getting rewarded for it by driving the net. I'm sorry. Maybe this is it, right? I'm not an official. I don't need to worry about the emotions after the fact swaying me in my decision. I know everybody's pumped for Shane Wright and what that means for the future and everything, but seeing Andre Burakovsky, the happiest, arguably, that I've ever seen him, it swayed me.
That's fair. The first thing that came to my mind when you asked when was the last time you seen a hockey player that happy, and my thought was Mark Stone after every goal he's ever scored.
Why you got to do that? Why you got to bring up Mark freaking Stone, RJ?
Sorry.
But I mean, it's a good burn on Mark Stone.
I'm trying to get some kind of salary cap relief by just mentioning him. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. B, now the coaches just need to listen to the deep dives ideas for the power play, because yeesh, that was rough. They allow at least one shorthanded chance every time nowadays. I think that low key is probably should be the most concerning thing with the power play right now, is that in back-to-back games, you've had odd man rushes. I mean, at least this time it was a 2-on-1 instead of a 2-on-0, like in the Kings game. But you should not be giving up this many odd man rushes. And boy, Chandler Stevenson, he sure tried in that one instance.
He's not a defenseman. He's not a natural defenseman. That is not his spot. He just kind of stood in the way, and I never really expected more from him in that position. That's not what he gets paid to do.
Yeah.
And we do have
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super chat here from Schultz that actually does kind of relate to what we're talking about, though. We only get goalied by backups, so hopefully Dostal starts again next game. But does Grew play next? And does the power play need a personnel change or a new specialist?
All right. Well,
we want to tackle first
to start at the end, because it's an easy answer. Yes, the power play does probably need a personnel change, although it's more of a scheme change. And do they need a new specialist? Yes. The problem is, as we were kind of doing research and watching the top power plays from around the league, you know what makes all the top power plays? Just having like a good, legit superstar player that can just one-time the puck consistently. That's apparently really all that separates the really good power plays from the bad ones, is just having somebody like that. So yes, do they need a specialist for the power play? Yeah, but that would be a superstar, and I don't know that that's going to be easy to go out and acquire before Wednesday.
Yeah, acquiring that specialist certainly before Wednesday is a bit of a reach, but really that to reach that next level where you get into the top power plays in the league, that's what you need to have. The Kraken don't have it. There's still a lot of improvement to be had. You don't have to be bottom 5 in the league. Scheme things can make that better.
Yeah, and I was surprised by that. Like, that was not something that I was thinking. I thought there would be a lot more of just like, oh, there's just teams that really scheme things out, like really in clever ways and interesting ways. No, it's just star players being star players. What are your thoughts though on Grew for the next game?
I would not play him in the next game because you have the back-to-backs against San Jose coming up. Grubauer is obviously going to get one of those. Look, you're at the point where you cannot afford to have Grubauer start for you. I mean, even in games against the Ducks, like this was a 1-goal game. This was a close game. I think if Grubauer's a net for you, you probably lose this game because of the chances that you allowed to Anaheim, and Joey saved your bacon yet again. I don't think the Kraken can afford to start him at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's really not even for me like Grew. It's just that Joey has been so freaking good.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is not an indictment on Grubauer or how he's playing, but I'm saying with the quality of chances the Kraken are allowing right now, really to anybody, it's going to take elite goaltending just to win, even against bad teams. So you need that elite goaltending.
Yeah, no, I know. Let's see. So people talking about the interference call in here and all of that kind of stuff. Lots of love for the lemon lime Gatorade video. Love seeing that. Apparently the Sharks are washing the Kings from Fusion Mix, saying the Pacific's so wild open. Are you kidding me? That's
what
wild.
Is going on? 7-2 final.
What do we have to deal with this Sharks team now? I swear.
They're getting it all out right now.
Hopefully. Let's see. Good night, Pablo. That is really wild. Daniel, about 6:30 left in the third. Did anyone else catch Turbo doing the whoop 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 Three Stooges run in place trying to stop himself? I did not, but I want to go back and see that. That sounds hysterical.
I'm making a note of that timestamp. What was it? 6:30 left in the third?
6:30, yeah, somewhere around there.
Thank you. That would be
That would be a good one to clip probably. Bryce, as great as Shane was, I still need him to get more ice time. Lowest on the team tonight at just over 10 minutes. Yeah, that is something that needs to continue. Hopefully that's just a road situation there.
Yeah, but it does speak to how much he is being sheltered at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Daniel, maybe on the power play, we should put as much effort into scoring as we do trying to set up the most perfect drop pass.
The drop. Oh man, I could go into a whole thing about the drop pass.
Kills me.
The reason that it's incorporated, and I thought about including this in my power play systems video that we did for the patrons this summer. The reason the drop pass exists is because it works. It is marginally better. It's something like 5 to 10% more likely that you get the zone entry by running the drop pass versus not, and that's why teams do it all the time. The numbers bear it out that you are slightly more likely, but you can't get too predictable with it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Rebecca, if the Joey goal has to happen on the road, Anaheim would be a great spot for all those Firebirds fans. That is true. There would be Kraken fans there for it. And then from Becca, so should we play Joey every home game and Grubauer every other away game? That would be an interesting way to do things outside of like back-to-back situations.
Right. Outside of that, I mean, that could be kind of a framework, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joey should be getting the lion's share of the games. Grubauer, you can give, and I think you can even kind of play it like you did with New York. Maybe give him the scheduled losses. I hate to say it that way, but that's kind of how I'd operate at the moment.
Just really throwing him under that bus, RJ.
Earn the salary somehow.
Yeah. Kyle, question about the home road splits. Is this team super dependent on line matching in a way the hack teams weren't?
Interesting. I mean, well, Hackstall did say that he really was not a line matching type of
He
coach.
did not care.
Worry about that stuff. He didn't care, at least during the regular season. During the playoffs,
right?
That stepped up, as
everybody
it does for
cares.
everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the regular season, maybe that is something I haven't asked Dan about. I asked Hackstall multiple times about the line match thing, the point where he would just shut me down every time and be like, no, I don't care. But I haven't really asked Dan about it yet. So maybe that's an area to talk to him about, because I wonder if he cares a little bit more.
It would be interesting. I do think that is partly why this team has been better at home, because we have seen Dan line match, particularly this past homestand. It felt like we were seeing that more often than I remember really ever seeing with the Kraken, enough that it obviously stood out to me when I wasn't looking for it. So I do think that is something that Dan utilizes, and it could potentially explain why this year the team has much better splits at home than on the road.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to dig into.
Yeah, and feel free to go whenever you need to here, RJ.
Got about another minute or two. Yeah.
I'll make the most of having you still around. From Chuck, Bjorkstrand and Tolvanen have had very good numbers when paired together, and over 1,000 minutes of 5-on-5. I was happy to see Shane put with them, and I know Chuck sent us some of those numbers earlier. Got to dig through it all before we can incorporate it into everything. But yeah, they are definitely a good match. Obviously, most of those minutes I would assume with Yanni Gourde.
Yeah, probably. And thank you again for those numbers and those emails, Chuck. I do appreciate going through those. Very fascinating stuff. And even the one we didn't get to use today with Philip Grubauer's birthday, and now he's 2-0 all time on his birthday. So we didn't get the start tonight, but happy birthday to Philip Grubauer. And thanks for pulling that one up, Chuck.
Yes, definitely. And then from Gunnar here, the super chat. What a post game, RJ. Get it? Get it? I'm so glad for Berkey and Wright. Yeah, it is good stuff. I love it. Thanks for the super chat there.
Yeah, that's great. Also cool to see a super chat. This has got to be one of the first times we've had a super chat in Norwegian kroner. Look at that.
Yeah, no, it is cool for sure. And that is probably true. That's probably the first time there. Let's see, Aaron, bad. I broke my fibula last night while reffing beer league. Good, the Kraken win. Aaron, that sucks. Oh my gosh, it's got to be, it's painful and everything, I'm sure, and it's going to be rough for a little while. I am very sorry, bud.
Yeah, that sucks. Wait, is that Ovechkin's injury?
That is Ovechkin's injury, yes.
So hey, you got that in common with Alex Ovechkin. If you're looking for silver linings.
Yes, I'm sure.
You too would have broken Gretzky's goal record if only for that not happening.
Exactly. Coop, first thing Dan mentioned in his post game was that he had lots of scoring chances, just hit the post. Said Shane and Berkey goals really fired up the team. I am sure that was something, because everybody, everybody's been either in that situation that Berkey has been in, RJ, or been terrified of being in that situation that Berkey's been in here for the last little bit. So I'm sure that that was a huge deal for everybody. And then also, I do think there is something when, especially with a young player, somebody has been scratched and they've been pulled out of the lineup. As a player what that means and how significant that is and how hard that can be. So when you see the player come back in and just immediately deliver, I got to think that that stirs an emotion that really only other players could properly appreciate.
Exactly. When you have a tight knit room like this, and also it's something that you've experienced, right? Every one of those players at some level of hockey has been snake bitten, has been healthy scratched, has known they needed to play better, has been in those moments, and they know what it is to not get it done and to have to persevere. But also when the monkey's finally off your back and you do score, it's a great feeling.
Yep. Stratic, tonight's game was weirdly almost equally frustrating and satisfying. Ultimately satisfying, of course, but what a wild ride it was. And it does feel like every game in Anaheim is that way. Like ultimately the Kraken end up walking away with the victory for the most part. But boy, they're always closer than they somehow should be. I really feel that way after having been to just about all of them in person.
Yes, and I'm totally with you there, Striatic. And then I see a super chat here from Shay that I want to catch before I go because I do need to get to going. But I must have missed the fiance announcement, so congrats, RJ. Thank you so much, Shay. Really do appreciate that. And yeah, I'm engaged to my wonderful fiance. Again, couldn't be doing this without her and her support. I mean, heck, even in moving up to Seattle to get this started. So shout out to my fiance there, and how she's cool with all these late night hockey games that I go to as well. She goes to as many of them as she can.
That's crazy to me. I think you're crazy for playing in them. I think she's even crazier for going to as many as she does go to. But it is great to see for the two of you.
You should see my splits when she's there versus when she's
not.
I bet. Like the scoring is almost double.
Got to show off. Got to show off for sure.
Exactly.
Why don't you ever do that when I'm in the building, RJ?
Well, actually, yeah, my game when you were there was pretty bad.
Pretty bad. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I mean, when Chuck and Shannon went, I had some good numbers. I don't know. It's everyone but you.
Everybody but me. Yeah.
I know you're scouting. You got that vision on me. The pressure.
I'm in your head. And fiance for not too much longer before that title changes.
That's right. Wedding is in January, and actually, I think the Kraken have they've got a couple games like the day after, and then 2 days after the wedding. So we'll have an interesting post game there. Yeah, they played the day before and the day after the wedding, so maybe I could have scheduled that a little bit better, but it'll be fun.
It's tight, but we'll make it work. Maddie, I know we went net front, so I'm surprised at how few shots on goals were actually past the dots. Only 4 of the Kraken's 28. That is really interesting. And I don't have like a heat map or anything up right now or money puck, but that is surprising because that is kind of one of the things that going net front is for, is you get those screens for those perimeter shots as well as bodies there for rebounds.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely. I'm trying to pull up the shot map real quick, but that is an interesting stat.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. Aaron, me and Ovi are one and the same.
Yep.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I pulled up the shot map. That checks out. It's a weird looking shot map.
That's very interesting for this one, especially because you would have thought that is something that they would want to do against a goaltender who is playing out of his mind the way Dostal has been so far this season, is that you'd want to get bodies down low, take away his eyes, and then try to push pucks past him. I guess they kind of did that, but it was more so with like the one deflection from Shane and then just like the lucky bounce off Berkey.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And thanks everyone for the congrats there. The congrats in the chat. Brooke saying Dylan's girlfriend can sub for RJ on the post game. Perhaps that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I could have maybe done that if it wasn't just being brought up now. Actually, could have maybe had that.
Maybe could have made plans for that. And then Becca, me and my husband didn't get to have a real honeymoon, but it meant we had a lot of time to plan a makeup trip together. Hope y'all get the same. Thankfully, due to the Four Nations tournament, we will get to have a proper honeymoon. So that's what I'll be doing during that international tournament. Probably won't get to watch much of it. But it worked out at the hockey schedule. And I think with that, actually, I do need to get going. And hope you feel better, Pablo, as you have to turn into for less fun reasons. But thank you, Dylan, for holding it down for the rest of this. And good to see everybody. And let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, we'll see you later, RJ. All right. So if we skipped over anything so far in chat, feel free to put it down below here, or just start putting in new stuff. I'm gonna work my way back up here. Um, Daniel, I really like the camera angle in Anaheim, a bit more space and able to see more player movement. I agree with you, Daniel. I think because of the way that arena is built, where they kind of have the camera bank set up is at a very interesting kind of place, and angle. I mean, I don't know, you said it right. Uh, but it does kind of create for like a wider view. And I always appreciate that because there are some arenas where they come in so tight that even just in the same zone, you're not able to necessarily always pick up where all five guys on either team is, and it makes it very hard, especially like on road games or back when I was down in Southern California, to be able to watch and be like, okay, how did this play develop really, or where was everybody? Why was this guy way off over there? Oh, it's because there was this guy off frame, something like that. Doesn't really happen with these situations here. But Maddie pointing out the camera zoom in Anaheim was driving me nuts. They kept micro zooming in and out the whole time. Yeah, that's a different story from where they have the camera base set up. That I don't know what was up with that. That was a choice, we'll say. I don't know if it was like an auto zoom was having issues, maybe because it is such an awkward angle, that like any sort of auto zoom or auto focus was kind of having like an issue. Because sometimes those little tiny zoom in, zoom outs are really just it trying to focus itself. And I do wonder if it was just that, and maybe that unique angle there, the cameras just weren't really calibrated for it, and it was just having an issue with that. Shay, do you think any Kraken possibly make a Four Nations roster? If so, who? I would think Eli Tolvanen for Finland should be in the equation. We had talked about this on Red Glare. I thought maybe Vince Dunn was going to have a chance with Team Canada. I think the injury probably keeps that from happening. Yes, he'll be back in time, but I think him being out as long as he has been out, they have to submit their roster really next week. So I don't think he's going to make it. We were talking about the interesting scenario though, where Joey Decord has like a lot of citizenships, or at least a lot of ability to play for different national teams, one of which being Canada. And Canada does not have a lot of really good goaltending options right now. Joey would actually probably be their best pick to start in net. So I would like to maybe see Joey Decord go for Team Canada and maybe be the goaltender there. Although if the Kraken are going to need him down the stretch, having him have a couple weeks off where he can rest, reset, get his body right and everything for that stretch run would be important. But I do think that there's a chance that that he ends up maybe going there. I think there's maybe a possibility Adam Larson gets rotated in on D for Team Sweden, but they don't. That's definitely not a guarantee and not something that would necessarily happen. I think really the only one that seems like the most like a lock would be Eli Tolvanen with Finland. But hey, it just means everybody gets to go have a nice little vacation during that time, get the break, rest up their bodies, and then be able to come back and hopefully make a playoff push later in the season. So it's not the end of the world if they don't make it. Maddie Dillon, did you get a new stream room or did you get kicked out? I'm actually at my girlfriend's parents' house, so I'm actually in her dad's office space right now, and that is why I am here. Becca, Kraken management got to have PTSD on goaltenders doing international games. No, reminding us of the Chris Drieger ACL tear at the World Championship. Yeah, that might be, maybe that would be a reason for them to say no on Joey going. Although I don't know that the team can. I think the players have the ability to say to back out if they don't want to do it, but I don't know that the teams can, just because it is an NHL tournament. I got to imagine the NHL would put some sort of pressure on teams to not keep guys from coming. Let's see. People agreeing rather have Joey rest. Whoever said Joey is a man of three nations on a four-nation tournament was hilarious. Yes, that was hysterical when we were talking about this during our live game commentary. For the Kings game, last game. That was pretty great, Christian. You are right. Milo, if Joey made Team Canada, I'd be waving the Maple Leaf flag all tourney. I think a lot of Kraken fans would. That would be really cool to see him do that, because when we were looking at like his elite prospect page, Joey Decord, it doesn't look like has ever been able to play for a national team. or had that opportunity before in his career. So it would be the first time for him, which is also why we don't entirely know which national roster he would actually go for, because he does have the options of Canada, USA, and Switzerland. So he has a lot of options. I explained it out. I think for this Four Nations tournament, he could probably choose any of them and it would be fine. Usually the way it goes when you have a player who is of dual citizenship or has eligibility for multiple nations in international competition, most of the time those international competitions are IIHF events, in which case what the IIHF makes you do when you're like a teenager is pick a country that you are going to play for, and then that becomes the country you play for the rest of your career. Usually there are ways in which you can change that, but it's a process. He has not had to do that because he hasn't gone to any international tournaments yet. So it would be interesting to see kind of which one he would choose if all the options were on the table for him. I know, and I see Draybird, I'm Team Joey for Switzerland for the Olympics. I believe they've already made that request. So that would be interesting. Again, though, that's not IIHF. So he could participate in the Olympics for Switzerland. He could go Team Canada for the Four Nations tournament. And then he could, if he wanted to, although it'd be really stiff competition, go and for IIHF for like a world championship, go and play for Team USA. That would be an option for him, is that he could spread the wealth, so to speak. But that would be very, very interesting. Let's see, Maddie asking, can Joey decline if he doesn't want to play for some reason, or does whatever country that asks first get dibs? No, I believe it is whichever team he decides to play for, he has that choice. He can turn them down, particularly for this Four Nations tournament. I got to imagine, I mean, I know the NHL is putting it on. They want to make sure as many star players are in it as possible, but I got to imagine you'd give them the ability to back out, especially, all it would take is for them to say, look, I'm kind of dealing with something. I don't know that I can do this right now, whatever, right? And what are they supposed to do, right? Force somebody who may be injured into the tournament? I don't know. I'm not advocating for lying to the NHL. I'm just saying that would be a way. It makes me so happy that Joey's such a hot commodity. He really does deserve it. Yes, it is great to see Milo. Amanda, at that point, is Joey no longer a mayor and instead supreme ruler? Yes, if Joey plays for 3 national teams in like 2 years, we may have to change the whole mayor nickname, just because he will be, talk about an international man, just all over the place. That would be really cool to see for sure. And then also from Milo, somebody should ask him next time he's up there. And then, yeah, Draybird saying, I think the IHF runs the Olympic stuff. They do, but I don't know if it counts. Like it's like a thing. Like they kind of run it. I don't know that the whole locked in for IHF thing though counts for the Olympics. That's the one thing that I don't know. But yes, you are right. The IIHF is involved in running the ice hockey stuff for the Olympic tournaments. They are part of that, but they're not IIHF events, or at least not in the same way that the World Championship, World Junior tournaments, and all of that kind of stuff is. So I don't know that the same rule of like kind of locking down what country you're going to be a part of comes in. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the same there. If the registration process is the same, given that you're really registering as an Olympic athlete rather than an IIHF athlete, unless they really do have control over the tournament, in which case maybe that is the case. In which case it would be really interesting to see if Joey does choose to go the Swiss route, because he could then be locking himself down to that national team, which, that would be really cool. And he would certainly elevate that program, and he would have that job secure for a while. But it would mean not being a part of Team USA or Team Canada, which I would imagine would be quite the decision, quite the choice for a lot of people there. Not gonna lie. And Schultz, yes, Joey, international man of mystery. That's where I was going, but I don't know that it would be a mystery so much as just him running around playing elite goal for all these different groups. Ricky, would help his Vezina chances to get Four Nations publicity. That is true, Ricky. You are not wrong. To have to come in and be certainly the starter for Team Canada at a tournament where everybody's eyes are going to be on it and everybody's going to be watching it from an NHL standpoint. That would be, you could not buy that level of publicity and everything with the voters, which are of course the NHL general managers. They're all going to be watching that tournament. It would be big, and the media kind of pool, seeing him, talking about him, just whoever gets chosen for Team Canada is going to get talked about into oblivion up in Canada. We know how that story goes, right? If it was a member of the Kraken and if it was Joey Daccord, it would be really interesting to see what that kind of turns into for everything. It would be really, really interesting because we just haven't had a Kraken player really be the focal point of a nation before, much less the hockey nation. So that would be fascinating just to see if it really led to a lot of stuff, increased viewership for the Kraken, stuff like that. I got to imagine it would help Joey Daccord jersey sales, though. That would probably help, especially if he had a good tournament and he went and played for them. Let me scroll back up. I'm down at the bottom there. I'm sure there's stuff that we missed earlier when we were trying to get everything in with RJ still here. Tammy, where was Forsland? I missed the beginning of the game. Forsland was out calling one of the Amazon national games. So he does on Mondays, some Mondays, Amazon has national games, and John Forsland is the voice for those. So for those games where the Kraken also have a game that night, and it is not the national game on Amazon Prime, Everett Fitzhugh will step in and be the person to do the broadcasts. Let's see here. Shane's got to be first star, right? That is interesting. I do not know who was first star. I would think Shane and Berkey should be on there, and then maybe a member of the Ducks. That would make sense to me. I will try to pull it up here. Becca with the super chat, though. Appreciate this, Becca. Joey going from only Arizona wanting him for college to every dang nation wanting him is a beautiful narrative twist. It is, and it's a perfect story. We've talked about this before with really a lot of members of the Kraken. They have so many of these guys, whether it's like a Ty Cartier going from undrafted to the NHL in about a year's time, or Joey Daccord kind of struggling or trying to find his way through multiple organizations, and ultimately, coming in and playing some of the best hockey in the National Hockey League, second in goals saved above expected in the National Hockey League this year. And if you look at the last 2 seasons combined, he's right up there. That's been really cool to see and to have all this stuff. But yeah, for him to go and believe in that Arizona State program and go there, and then to believe in him and for that journey to have kicked it all off is been really, really neat. And yes, it would really, that story would be told in a big way if he was to join Team Canada. Try not to use the word really anymore for the rest of the podcast. I do have the 3 stars. Brandon Montour was first star of the game. Troy Terry, second star of the game. Third star, Adam Larson, which is interesting. Extremely interesting to have Adam Larson up there. Let's go. And I see Zoe point that out in chat. Yeah, oddly enough, indeed. Christian, is this the first time the Four Nations tournament is being held? Yes, this is, I believe, the first time that they've had something called the Four Nations tournament. The NHL has hosted international competitions before and international tournaments. They've hosted like the World Cup of Hockey, I believe is what it was called. They had a tournament like a handful of years ago, and it was fascinating because it had, I believe it was 6 nations, the big 6, and then they had another team that was Europeans from the countries that weren't large enough or didn't have enough NHL players to support a full roster. So you had, people like from Slovenia or Slovakia on that team. And then you had like Kopitar, and I think at the time Marian Gaborik was still playing. I don't know why he popped in my head as a Slovak to talk about. But and then you had another team that was the U23 team, and it was the North American young players, and it was North American players, so Americans and Canadians, and they were all the young guys. So it was like Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid and all these guys that were under 23, and they were going to come in and like, okay, how good are these guys compared to the Sidney Crosbys and the Alex Ovechkins and all of that kind of stuff. And it sounds really cool when I'm talking about it right now. But if memory serves correct, they played it right before the season started. People were very rusty. Nobody wanted to get hurt before the regular season started, and the tournament, the hockey was just not that good. But I thought it was kind of a fun idea to have like the young star team, the kind of European, not union, but most of the countries are part of the EU, the European group like that and everything. It was very interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting look that the NHL did. But that's the last time I believe that the NHL hosted a international tournament. Schultz, any lineup changes or line shuffles for next game? How do we combat the goal scoring prowess of Wenberg? Well, we get the Ducks again before we got to deal with that. I don't know how to shut down Alexander Wenberg as a goal scorer because we've just never seen it before. We are in uncharted waters against the Sharks when it comes to Alex Wenberg and what he's been doing down there in San Jose. So I don't entirely know offhand, Schultz, how to deal with that. As far as larger scale lineup changes or anything, my guess is we see the same lineup on Wednesday that we saw tonight from the Kraken. Let's see here. The rise of Joey Decord. I know, it's so good. All of us ready to pledge allegiance to Joey from Amanda, definitely. Let's see. Daniel, does Shane get credit for the assist on the faceoff win, or is there some dumb hockey reason it's not an assist? It should be an assist unless a Duck touched it along the way. But no, yeah, Shane Wright has the assist. It is there. You can, if you win the faceoff back to somebody and they shoot and score, that is still an assist because you did pass them the puck. Like the puck came from you to them. That is all that matters. Let's see here. Thought Larson was fine, but probably not my third star from Maddie. I'm kind of seeing that sentiment from a couple people, and yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice. SJ, World Cup of Hockey is supposed to be the replacement for the Canada Cup, but they can never seem to get their act together to hold it regularly. Agreed. It doesn't happen that often anymore. Ricky, Four Nations is a warm up for the Olympics. Sid wanted international hockey. What Sid wants, Sid gets. Did Sid want it though? Because he seems like he doesn't want it. As they've been doing all the like PR and stuff, and RJ and I were talking about this. It just looks like Sid is over this and doesn't totally want to do it. But it's possible that he wanted to before the Olympics as some sort of tune-up or something. I don't know. It's always strange that like the players do really want international hockey. They do want to do it. And as you're saying, McDavid wanted it, not Sid. I mean, McDavid, we saw when McDavid wants something, he does get it. And that was the whole All-Star game last year. So I don't know, maybe he changed tunes after that and he wants international hockey now. But it is interesting how the players always want to take part in the Olympics, do the international hockey stuff, and it is interesting that the teams obviously never want it, and so you always have to deal with that battle. And I'm sure it'll be in the next CBA negotiations all over again and all of that kind of stuff here. Tammy, is Sid as in Crosby? Yes, Sidney Crosby would be the Sid that we were talking about. And then Draybird, I'm doing some research on Olympic national eligibility, and the IIHF site implies that the Olympics apply the same rules as the World Championship. Okay, so then the idea of Joey playing for all three nations is out unless the NHL was to do some sort of unless the NHL was to do a Four Nations tournament again next season or something, in which case he could probably change countries for that tournament because the NHL doesn't really care, and that would be something. But I guess he can't do Switzerland for the Olympics and then Canada for other IIHF events. That is unfortunate, but thank you very much, Draybert, for looking that up. That is some good work there. I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I think that just about does it here. I'll do like a quick last call, but otherwise, looking forward to the game on Wednesday. If you are going to the game on Wednesday, definitely make sure to get there early because it is Bowie bobblehead night, I believe. And that is, I got to imagine, I know the Forsland bobbleheads were like a huge, huge, huge thing. I got to imagine this is going to be the biggest bobblehead giveaway that the Kraken have ever had with Bowie, and he looks like one of the old school Trolls dolls with the hair that you get to play with, just like mine, right? And that I am so looking forward to seeing those in person, and I know a ton of people are going to want to see those. So if you're going to the game on Wednesday, or maybe now you want to go to the game on Wednesday, make sure you get there early so that you get your Bowie bobblehead, because that is going to be an incredible giveaway from the Kraken there. And yes, Christian, the Four Nations tournament is in lieu of the All-Star game this season. There will be no All-Star game. We are having this tournament instead. So it's good stuff. Can't wait for this next game. Hopefully Kraken can kind of continue some of this momentum. They are able to get in there and fix the power play, work on that a little bit. They continue to go to the net. Shane continues to play well. Berkey, maybe this starts a heater where he scores for his next 22 games in a row, right? It took him 22 games to get a goal. Maybe he scores for 22 straight now that he's on the board. Let's see. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Can't wait to go over it with everybody on the next post game live. But until then, I'll see y'all next time.